Hey and welcome to Vanguard Tactics. I'm Stephen Box, and if you're unsure what is going on with the new Warhammer 40k 9th edition rules, then by the end of this video you're going to have a really good understanding of all of the new rules and how they work on the tabletop. So you'll never get caught out and never feel left behind. In this video, we're going to be looking in depth at how falling back is going to work in Warhammer 9th edition, along with some of the new stratagems, and those stratagems being Desperate Breakout and also Cut Them Down. And then we're also going to take a look at how they can work in conjunction with one another. So for the best Warhammer 40k and competitive tactics, then make sure you subscribe and also turn on that bell notification so every time we release a video on a Wednesday and a Saturday, you're going to get notified. At Vanguard Tactics, we pride ourselves on being the forefront of 40k tactics, which is why we have the only 40k coaching academy, with over 150 students using the most advanced tactics and strategies, who will also be studying the new 9th edition rule set as soon as it is released and putting that into best practice to help them become the best general possible. So let's dive in. But first, what I'd love you to do is comment below with any of the previews that you've seen so far that you're unsure of, because if so, I can then make a video on it. Now, the first stratagem that we're going to take a look at is called Cut Them Down. Now, Cut Them Down is a 1 CP stratagem, and it reads as the following. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit falls back, but before any models in that unit are moved. You roll 1d6 for each of your models that are within engagement range of that enemy unit. And each result of a 6, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So how does that play out on the tabletop? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how that happens in the next couple of examples. Okay, in this example, using the stratagem Cut Them Down in 9th edition, what we're going to see is the difference between the current 8th edition rules and now the 9th edition. So in 8th edition, essentially what would happen if the AdMech player, so in this example is Joe, he's using his yellow AdMech, and he just would fall back his destroyers as they're not currently wrapped. And for the purposes of this, we're just going to assume that they were able to fall back from these witches. There would be no real penalty for the AdMech player whatsoever, and no real benefit for the Drakari player of this interaction happening. And now the robots would be free to completely blow up and destroy all of these 20 witches. Now the difference here with 9th edition is that, put these guys back, when Joe wants to fall back his AdMech, I would say, okay, I'm going to use the new stratagem, which is 1 CP, called Cut Them Down. So as you fall back, and before that happens, I would measure every model that I have within an inch. So on a 25mm base, I should be able to fight within 2 ranks. So here we've got 20 witches all within that 1 inch engagement range. And then what I would do is roll 20 dice. I roll a dice for every single model that I have within that engagement range. Now for every 6 I can roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That'd be 6 mortal wounds, and both of the destroyers have 3 wounds each, and that would pick up both destroyers as they try to fall back. Now that gives me not only some sort of damage back for 1 CP, and normally if you're spending 1 CP to do 3 mortal wounds, I normally think that's a pretty good trade, especially now with, you know, being able to get so many more CPs. But at least this way now, yes, the robots can fire into the witches in their shooting phase, but at least now I've managed to completely destroy those destroyers, which is then something I don't need to worry about in later turns. So here's another example, and maybe a little bit more situational, but still how effective this can be. Now what we have here, it's the Chaos Knight turn, and normally what he'd be able to do is just fall out of combat, 6 inches, as he's got 3 wounds remaining, and then he'd be able to shoot whatever he wants, obviously at the ballistic skill that he's bracketed to. But now, with this ability in 9th edition, Cut Them Down, this is going to be a huge benefit now. So if, for example, against huge Titanic units that are incredible at shooting in combat, so let's say what's happened in 9th here is that the Blood Angels have killed a unit, piled in, maybe fought again, but didn't quite kill the knight, but have been able to surround him completely and get as many models within engagement range as possible. When you When the Chaos Knight wants to fall back, you then measure how many models of your models, and it isn't from one unit, it's your models. So you would also include the Sanguinary Guard. So what we've got here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Sanguinary Guard, and we've got 12 Death Company. They're all within that 1 inch of engagement range. So that would be 18 potentials to roll a 6, and averagely it's 3. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mortal wounds, slightly above average, but still that's 1 dead knight. So as you can see, incredibly powerful stratagem for 1 CP in some situations. So that was the stratagem, cut them down. Now let's take a look at the next one, which is called Desperate Breakout, which is a 2 CP stratagem. And that reads as the following. Use this stratagem in your movement phase. Select 1 unit from your army that has not been selected to move this phase and is within engagement range of at least 1 enemy unit. Roll 1d6 for each model in that unit. For each result of a 1, 1 model in that unit of your choice is destroyed. Assuming that unit was not destroyed, it can now attempt to fall back. And when doing so, its models can move across enemy models as if they were not there. Any models in that unit that ends its falls back move within engagement range of enemy models is then destroyed. Assuming that unit is not destroyed, it cannot do anything else this turn, i.e. it cannot manifest psychic powers, it cannot shoot, it cannot declare a charge, be selected to fight, even if it is the rule that would allow it to do so after falling back. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to take another look at the tabletop, exactly the interactions and how this works. So this is going to be an incredibly powerful stratagem for those units that are trying to break out and break free from combat. In this example, for Desperate Breakout, what we have here is 8 Guardsmen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, surrounded by 20 witches. Now currently in 8th edition, how it would stand is the Drakari player's done a great job and completely wrapped this unit, which means that in the rules, you are not able to pass through any other models unless you have the fly keyword, which these guardsmen don't, which now prevents these 3 tank commanders from shooting at the witches. And that would cause a huge amount of issues, because what would now happen is that the Drakari would kill the Catachans or the guardsmen in their own turn and consolidate into these 3 tanks, rendering them completely useless. So we're now going to see the changes to this one simple stratagem. Now it's 2 CPs, and what this allows you to do is you roll a dice for each of your models, so it'll be again 8. We roll 8 dice, and for every 1 model represents me trying to break out, and every 1 I roll, I would lose a model. I didn't roll any 1s, so therefore all of my models can now move through enemy models, and as long as I move my movement value, which is 6 inches, and end over an inch away, then my unit is completely fine. So I'd pick up my guardsmen, move them 6 inches, now out of combat. And now when it gets to my shooting phase, although the guardsmen can't do anything, they can't charge, they can't shoot, they can't cast psychic powers, it now does mean that the 3 tank commanders can shoot into the witches and clear them off the table, and really meaning that the screen of the guards have kind of done their job. Now the witches do have an inbuilt ability to potentially stop units from falling back, but we're going to assume that didn't go off and those guardsmen were able to freely move back. So that was Desperate Breakout, and as you can see, an incredibly powerful stratagem, which I'm sure is going to have a lot of play. It's basically giving infantry models, or whoever that would normally be stuck in combat because they've been completely surrounded, the ability to literally fly away and use that similar mechanic. You obviously are forfeiting any shooting and combat, and it does specifically say you cannot be selected to fight. So if your enemy heroically intervenes into you or consolidates or whatever it might be, you would still not be eligible to even fight if you did use this stratagem on that unit. So just bear that in mind. And obviously you still may suffer morale from any models that were destroyed in your turn in doing so. So it's going to be a high risk, high reward stratagem, but I'm sure you're going to find a best way to put that in place to help you succeed succeed at the tabletop. So now let's take a look at what these two stratagems combined can do at the tabletop. As you saw from that recent example using the new stratagem called Desperate Breakout, it's a huge benefit to shooting armies, but the combat army still has that trick up its sleeve to use cut them down in this example. So we're going to see what that does in conjunction together. So the order of priority here, the guard player would use the stratagem Desperate Breakout. What would happen here is obviously they roll their 8 dice because there's the 8 guardsmen, and for every 1, that would be 2 destroyed, so 1 and then 2, and it is the guard player's decision. And then what would happen is the Drakari player would then choose to use the cut them down stratagem, then count up how many Drakari models are within engagement range. So from here we can basically see that all but 3 are in, so that's 17. And remember, for every 6 you roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 6s. So that'll be 4 models destroyed, and a total of 6 for that unit, which does now mean that when it comes to the guard player's morale phase, they probably will fail their morale and they will more than likely perish. But again, it just gives another little trick up the sleeve for those combat armies. Now, although the only problem is the 3 tank commanders would completely delete these, but at least it is something you are able to maybe kill that unit in order to help you progress on the mission, or remove those screens in the future for other charging units. So as you can see, the game is becoming a lot more cat and mouse. There's a lot more tactics that are much more back and forth and really benefit both shooting armies, and also there's plenty to benefit those combat armies. So that was the 2 stratagems in conjunction with one another, and comment below with which one you think you'll be using. Is it going to be cut them down, or is it going to be Desperate Breakout? So now you know how falling back is going to work. We are going to be sharing more videos on 9th edition over the next few weeks, and something you might be interested in, as soon as 9th edition is released, we'll be releasing our free online training course called Learn to Play Warhammer 9th edition, where we take you through the basic game theory of 9th edition, how to master the phases of the game, an in-depth guide through each mission, how to build an army for 9th, and also some advanced tactics and strategies. And to sign up, all you need to do is click the link in the description below. And remember guys, if you like this video, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we release a video on a Wednesday and a Saturday. So until then, I'll see you on another video. Take care.